It is so much bigger than OnlyFans. It is about your mind. How do you see yourself? How do you view yourself? Because what are the plans and purposes over your life then? You know, and I think that that's such an important part, because then it comes into your soul. The destruction of people's hopes and dreams is one of the most horrific things that you can have, because where do you come from there if you have no hope?
Welcome to this week's episode of Going Rogue with Lara Logan. My guest this week is an extraordinary and accomplished young woman who is going to blow your mind, actually, quite frankly, which is what she did to me the first time I met her. Her journey and her story is one that every parent needs to hear. And honestly, every single one of us, people, elected officials in positions of power, people in the tech world, they all need to face the truth about what is really happening behind sites like OnlyFans, which are exploiting our children. And Victoria Sinis.
Enough, you got it.
Okay. And Victoria Sinis is, she is someone who knows firsthand from her own experience. She is joining us, in the US now, but she's born and bred and raised in Australia, which is where she had a very successful agency that was supplying, recruiting, and providing girls to OnlyFans. And that was, she had no idea when she began that business that she would be pushing young girls into pornography. Just how bad is it? Much, much worse than you think. So I would like to very much welcome you, Victoria. Thank you for making the time to talk to us. You have had such an interesting journey already, and perhaps I left out the most important part of your introduction is how what you discovered, the darkness that you discovered really came together with bringing you to Christ. And we're going to talk about your faith, which I think is a big part of this conversation. So let me start by asking you, how fake is OnlyFans?
Oh, that's a fantastic way to start. And thank you so much for having me. So I guess the language in which I like to use around explaining OnlyFans is let's shatter the illusion of it. Because so many people, most people that you speak with, have you heard of OnlyFans? Yes. Okay, what is it? Oh, I don't really know. I think that you can sell your feet on there. And I think that people make a lot of money. I hear that it's like the more ethical way for women to sell cheeky pictures, if anything. And so this is such a common narrative that we hear all throughout our culture. Whenever I speak, no matter who I speak with, this is what people think. And so to put it bluntly, before we get into the intricacies of it, it is all a facade. And the reality is it is not this platform that you can jump onto and sell feet pics and make a bunch of money. The reality is it is a full-blown pornography platform, and the average wage of an OnlyFans creator is $180 a month. And so there is such an illusion in our culture that this is the quick get rich quick scheme, right? This is the legitimate career path. But the reality of that is just not true.
And so for $180, that's American or Australian dollars?
USD, yeah.
For $180 American dollars, girls are selling themselves and selling their souls because they've been sold a pack of lies. The Bible says whether you eat or drink, do it all to the glory of God. But have you ever thought, how is your cup of coffee glorifying God? When you drink ETP coffee, every sip tells a story of hope. 100% of the proceeds go directly to equipping the persecuted, a ministry rescuing, feeding, and protecting Christians suffering brutal persecution in Nigeria. These are men, women, and children who have lost everything because of their faith in Christ. But through your morning coffee, you can help save lives. ETP coffee doesn't just taste great, it does great. Visit etpcoffee.com and make your cup count for eternity. ETP Coffee. Glorify God with every sip.
Yep, because they're led to believe this dream that will led to believe this lie that this is your dreams. This is the pinnacle of success. This is the way that you can. I've had girls tell me that they think the only way they can be happy and travel is to do OnlyFans. And it's just the total opposite.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning so people understand how you came to learn all of this, and take us to really where it began, right? When you started this agency.
Yep. So what had happened for me is I was actually helping another friend build businesses. So my background is in businesses and marketing and sales, and specifically startups. I love startup businesses. So I was helping one of my very close friends in hospitality, building restaurants. And so we were working crazy weeks, 100-hour work weeks for months and months on end. And so I was like, I need a break. Like, I can't keep doing this. This is so intense. So I went on vacation for a month to Europe. Now, while I was in Europe, I had another friend decide that they wanted to start this thing called an OnlyFans agency. And so the reason why they wanted to start an OnlyFans agency is they had people in their world that were some of the biggest OnlyFans creators that we actually have in Australia. Instagram famous, all the different things, right? And those girls were actually complaining about their agencies. So one of my close personal friends was like, well, they have an exceptional educational background. They were actually an ex-criminal defense lawyer. And so they were like, well, I have a really good background educationally. We already have girls that we know that are in OnlyFans. They're quite successful. They know what agencies need. Well, let's ask Vic and get Vic on board, because she's the only one that actually has the business and marketing experience. And together we'll be this like amazing dream team girl power like agency. So when I come back from Europe, that's when I was approached, and they were like, hey, we're starting this business. Would you be interested in helping us to build it? And so that's how I got involved in the actual agency.
And what does an agency do for OnlyFans?
Yeah. So the way that I like to break down OnlyFans agencies is there's kind of three main elements to an OnlyFans agency. So for people that aren't even particularly maybe even aware of what OnlyFans is, just to give a little bit more context as to the role that agencies play. The whole allure of OnlyFans is the direct communication that people can have in the platform. So the way that it works is that you subscribe to a girl's OnlyFans, and there's all this locked content that's in messages. So this can be any type of content, technically speaking. But what the whole allure is that we're going to sit there, and that girl that you follow on Instagram, well, I can now message her on OnlyFans, build a relationship with her to some capacity, and I can get her to do anything that I want to. And so if you kind of put your business brains on, think about that logistically, right? So if you have a girl that has like 100,000 followers on Instagram, well, OnlyFans doesn't have a way to internally promote the platform. That's why you use platforms like TikTok and Instagram to promote OnlyFans and funnel people in. So if you have a girl that has hundreds of thousands of followers, just say, on Instagram, and she's funneling all of those followers to OnlyFans, well, she can't facilitate having conversations with thousands of people 24/7.
Not possible.
Not possible, correct. So what does she do? She offsets that work to an agency.
Oh, I see.
Yep. So that's where agencies come in. So aspect number one is account management. So the whole role is to maximize the earning potentials on girls' OnlyFans accounts. So make as much money as possible, basically. And so what you do with account management at the specific agency I worked at is you would onboard the girl, you would get them to fill out a questionnaire, and basically this questionnaire is every single thing that you can imagine. You want all the details about the girl. And there's so many things I guess we can potentially go into that comes to consent. This is liberating. It's the more ethical thing to do, because even just in the questionnaire, there's these things called levels. And so the levels is you want to ask the girl what level of content she's comfortable doing. And so this shatters the illusion that you just do feet pics, because level 1 is bikini and lingerie. Level 2 was implied nudity. Level 3 was full nudity. Level 4 was everything but anal, excuse the language. And level 5 was everything. And so you're already inaugurated into this ecosystem thinking that, oh, I'm just going to post some feet pics, right? But, oh, wait a minute. You're telling me that the baseline level is bikini and lingerie? Wait, there's a ladder to this? Does that mean if I start at the bottom, I need to work my way here to get to the top? So you can already see how it's softly manipulating women to think, oh, there's a game to this. There's a scale to this. So that's just that's just the questionnaire. From
Yeah.
the questionnaire, that gets turned into a brief. And so that brief is then given to these things called chatters. And so chatters are people that you hire from third world countries, predominantly from India or the Philippines. And their role is to pretend to be the girl. And so these are people that you hire for like $1 to $5 an hour USD. And for 6 to 7 days a week, 12 to 16-hour days, their job is to literally message all of the subscribers pretending to be the girl, and it's a commission role. So literally their job is to make as much money manipulating men pretending to be these OnlyFans girls. And then as well with account management, there's so many other things. You do full account audits, you're searching through everything. You as an account manager have to know everything that's in that girl's OnlyFans account because you have to best represent the girl.
You have to basically pretend to be the girl. You're pretending to be her, so you have to know everything about her. Mm-hmm. And these stupid men think that they're actually talking to the girl, that they've paid money to subscribe to her so that they can have these conversations.
Correct.
But for all they know, they could have some, like, I don't know, 50-year-old man in the Philippines with a big belly, you know, or sitting there, you know, writing graphic sexual content.
Yep, absolutely. You think that you're talking to some girl that you follow on Instagram that you love, but the reality is you're talking to some dude in the Philippines, and we train them in this thing called the girlfriend experience. And so they're literally trained on how to manipulate you to make as much money from you as possible.
And how do they make as much money? Like, I mean, because if you're a subscriber already, right, you're making money that way. So where does the extra money come from?
Oh, Lara, that's such a good question. So think about this, right? So it's crazy. Like, the statistics out there say that 89.7% of all men that subscribe to OnlyFans are married men. And so this literally poses that question of why are married men falling for the girlfriend experience on a porn platform that promotes connection?
Or seeking it. Why are they seeking the girlfriend experience?
Exactly. So what happens depending on the different account that you have. If you have an account that can funnel in thousands and thousands of subscribers, well, then you can turn over content really quickly, right? So you don't have to necessarily invest in building relationships with subscribers. But if you have an account that maybe doesn't necessarily have that high of a turnover because they're not bringing in that many people, it's like any business. You have to cultivate relationships with your customers. You have to build rapport with them. So it's like if you have your favorite fashion brand, they're always trying ways to have returning customers, right? So that's where pay-per-views come into it, which is specific content that you post every single day out as mass messages. So and so it's locked content. They can see different things. You have these things called custom requests. And so you want subscribers to be able to, send custom requests to the girls. That's the big money. But the whole point is you want to foster relationships with these people. You're not sexting people 24/7. You're building connection with them. So then they continuously come back. And then that's how you slip these sexualized conversations into it. So they'll continue to purchase pay-per-views or request custom requests.
So what are the kind of custom requests that get made?
So some that I talk about that I think are disturbing, and it'll make sense as to why, is when we have a culture that encourages facilitating any sexual desire, like that means we're facilitating any sexual desire, right? Like we have to really think about what that means. And so one that really disturbed me at the agency was this gentleman asked one of the girls to blow up balloons to a very specific size, wear very specific sandals, and stomp on the balloons. And he paid a lot of money for that. And people go, oh, it's probably a joke. I'm like, no. Think about that. Someone gets sexual gratification from that, and we're facilitating that. And like, why are we facilitating these bizarre sexual requests? And then another one, which is a little bit more sinister, that one was just odd, there was a subscriber that asked, can the girl get a guy, and can it look like the guy has his hands on the ledge and it looks like he's falling in the video, but in real life he doesn't have to be in danger, but can you step on his fingers and make it look like he's in danger and he's going to fall off a ledge? That was the request. That's it. And it's like, what? Like, again, if he's getting off to the perceived danger of someone, What happens when that doesn't work anymore? Does that mean he has to go out there and actually physically put someone in harm's way? And then the balloon one, what has happened in your life that you're paying good, legitimate money to get sexual pleasure from someone stomping on balloons that are specific sizes with specific shoes? So I think that sometimes people think that these custom requests are really perverted and wild and crazy. I'm like, they're more disturbing. And I think that that poses a greater question than something that's on the extreme levels of what they could be.
For years, we've heard the same advice about blood pressure from so-called experts. Eat less salt, stress less, hope it levels out as you age. But they've been wrong before. And what if the issue isn't just your heart or diet? It could be your nitric oxide levels, a natural molecule that's essential for circulation and stamina and clear thinking. By your 60s, nitric oxide levels can drop by up to 85%, affecting energy and focus and nutrient flow. Yet mainstream health outlets rarely mention it. And Big Pharma pushes pricey drugs, while science-backed alternatives like BLOODFLOW 7 by Juvenon are already available. BLOODFLOW 7, a daily nitric oxide support formula, uses nitrosogene, S7 botanical complex, trans-resveratrol, and bioperine, ingredients shown in clinical studies to boost nitric oxide by up to 230% within 3 hours and open arteries by 62% for better blood flow. Take control of your health. Just 2 capsules a day before breakfast. Stimulant-free with a 60-day money-back guarantee. Try it for a little over $1 a day. Visit bloodflow7.com/Lara. Again, that's bloodflow7.com/Lara. How big is OnlyFans?
Oh, I think I know that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I would have to fact check this, but I think it's in the top 10 search websites in the world.
Yeah, with how many girls?
There's currently in 2025, there's 3.78 million girls who are on OnlyFans and 732,000 men that are on OnlyFans as content creators.
And as a content creator, what's the burden on you? What are you doing to make that $180 a month?
So this comes into element number 2. So that was a perfect question. Element number 2 is marketing. So that was my role. So my role was to build the marketing division of the agency. And so with that, again, I kind of already established that you don't promote internally on OnlyFans. You have to promote externally on these other platforms. So what we had done is we actually got an expert that would study algorithms. And so this person would every single day send us very specific, curated, provocative content. And we would get the girls to have 3 to 5 TikTok accounts. And on every single one of those TikTok accounts, they had to be posting at least 5 unique videos per account, so up to 20 videos across these TikTok accounts of this like very provocative, promiscuous content that had all these innuendos. It was trending sounds, trending skits, trending hashtags, everything you can imagine to be able to manipulate the algorithms to go viral. So that's just TikTok doing like 20 unique videos per day and doing those methods. Just for, I guess you asked about like how big this is, how influential this is. This isn't even getting into all the other requirements, but we had one girl doing these methods on a brand new TikTok account on one video get 2.2 million views. So imagine the magnitude of how much our social media is being inundated with this very intentional content to lure men in, to softly manipulate girls, to get them to think this is how they have to act. And they think it's real. They're like, wow, look at this girl. She's getting rewarded. She gets all these likes and views and comments and all the different things. Maybe I have to do that to get the same. And they don't understand that there's an entire business that's literally manipulating this, studying this to make it look like it's real, but it's not. And so that's, yeah.
What are the other things that they do to lure girls in?
So the biggest one is definitely the social media, like I would say the soft influence. It's kind of like OnlyFans girls become recruiters for OnlyFans girls inadvertently. But the intentional way that agencies do this is you at the agency where I was at, we were actually hosting legitimate parties. We were hiring out mansions, hiring out bars, throwing like these fantastic dinners, hiring yachts, having the, luxury cars and everything. And so you would invite girls that you were from the agency, you would invite influencers, all the different things to these parties. But then what you would do is you'd get all this content and you'd post it on the agency Instagram account. And so we had all this fantastic stuff of look at how elite and bougie our lifestyle is. And then you would literally scour the internet, look for girls that fit certain requirements, and you would cold message them and you'd be like, you look amazing. Have you ever considered OnlyFans, or have you considered representation if they had an OnlyFans? And they would see this account and see the lifestyle and then correlate the two together.
So, Victoria, forgive me, but you sound just like a pimp.
Yeah, truly. It's digital pimping. There's no difference.
Digital pimping. That's exactly what it is. And how old are these girls?
So at the agency where I was at, we knew legally that you could not have girls under the age of 18.
Yeah.
But I have heard stories of the fact that there are girls that under the age of 18 that are signing up to OnlyFans.
Well, how would you know? What level of verification do you even do?
So the specific agency we were at, we would check their passports. Other agencies, I couldn't tell you. That's why I'm like, I've heard these stories. And then actual OnlyFans itself doesn't really have an age verification process. You just have to have an ID, and it's very easy to make a fake ID.
Of course, so they don't care.
Yeah.
And how much money is this worth? I mean, like, how much was your agency making? If you were hiring all these things, and throwing lavish parties to make it look like, you're living the life. I mean, it doesn't sound like it was a bad business.
So I think it depends. So this is where there's obviously nuances within this. And that's what I like to preface with people is I don't want people to focus on that. We had girls that were already in OnlyFans that had followings. And so that's why it correlated differently. I want people to focus on the reality that statistically there's like about 3.8 million content creators on OnlyFans and only 300 make more than $1 million a year. And as we said, the average wage is $180 a month. So yes, there is a very small amount of people that are making money, but it's a very loud amount of people that are explaining that they're doing that. And I think that that's more important for people to understand because otherwise you can miss the message and get so enticed by the money that it draws away from the whole entire point of what we're trying to discuss.
Well, how much money were you making as the agency?
Oh, well, think about it. It's a startup business. So in the beginning, any startup business, it's not like you're balling out. Did it have the earning potential and was it getting there? Absolutely. But us as employees, it's not like we were balling out. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so what happened? How did it all go wrong and blow up for you?
Yeah. So what happened for me is I'm working at this agency, and for about the first 6 months, it's doing all the front end stuff. So building this marketing building this marketing division. And I actually never jumped on the back end of OnlyFans. So I was still pretty desensitized because all I'm seeing is Instagram and TikTok content. And what we had realized over time, though, is that if we're impersonating a person and I'm over here doing all of the social media and OnlyFans account manager is doing all the OnlyFans account managing, but the subscriber is talking to you on Instagram and then on OnlyFans, and we're not communicating as the team behind the scenes. Well, the subscriber was starting to pick up on the story. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm talking to you on Instagram and then following it up on OnlyFans, and you don't know what I'm saying.
And you're saying different things. And you don't, and you told me this on Instagram, and now on OnlyFans, you have no idea you said it. So they're realizing that it's a con.
Exactly. And so we realized we had to change our business structure because people were catching on. So what we did is instead of doing all the account managing, all the marketing, we split the girls in half, and you do the full life cycle, but for less girls. So that's when I actually jumped onto the back end and I actually started to see what we were doing. And so personally, I've never even been exposed to pornography. And so I'm seeing porn for the first time, and it's girls that now for the past period of time, I've built relationships with and I built friendships with. And so now I'm doing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what we're doing. This is what we're promoting. And the easiest way I can explain it is I was just malfunctioning. I'm crying every single day. I'm like, that girl's really kind. That girl's really smart. That girl's really funny. And this is what we're telling them to do. This is the dreams that they should dream. And so I went on this like quest and I started asking questions at the agency and what do you think about what we're doing? And I had people tell me that it's like a safe injecting heroin room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. And I wasn't satisfied with any of these answers. And so at this point in time, because of the lifestyle we're living, the parties we're throwing, drugs and alcohol for me was like the worst it's ever been in my life. And so I'm like, wow, the drugs aren't working anymore. Alcohol's not working. I can't numb myself out. I don't feel good. Okay, what can I do to feel better? Because what I'm doing, this doesn't feel good.
Let's be honest, vaping has become a big problem. But if you want that nicotine buzz, there's a cleaner, more discreet alternative. It's called ZIPPIX nicotine toothpicks for adults who want to switch from smoking or vaping. Made in America and veteran-owned, ZIPPIX can help you take control of your habits. Use code LARA for 10% off at zippixtoothpicks.com/discount/Lara. Again, that's zippixtoothpicks.com/discount/Lara. Because now suddenly you started out to make an agency and now you find you're in the porn industry.
Yeah, exactly. Like full-blown porn industry. Like it's not what you think it is at all. Yeah.
And you're how old?
25.
At that time, you're 25 years old. And you are, and these are girls that you helped to recruit, some of them.
Yeah.
Wow. So that made you feel terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, again, I just saw the value in these girls and then I saw what we were promoting and what we were actually telling them. And that's why I was like, this is wrong. Like these girls are way more valuable than this. But it was kind of like the whole illusion was shattered of what our culture has said and what you're led to believe your entire life. Because you're like, wait a minute, all we're doing is promoting these girls' bodies and their sexuality, but there's so much more than that. But this is what we're doing. So that's why it was like, that's why I can only explain it as I was malfunctioning because I started to question like everything.
And once you started to question it, it's like pulling a thread, right? It just starts to unravel. So what happened?
So then from there, I'm on this journey. I'm trying to figure it out. And that's why I was like, well, maybe if I do a big enough act of good, that'll offset all the bad that I'm feeling. That'll make me feel better about myself because nothing else is working, right?
I'm not sure it works that way, Victoria, but it's a nice shot. Let's go. Let's hear it.
I don't know. I was like, karma, something has to work, right? And so I was like, okay, what's an extreme enough act of good? And I was like, well, go overseas and help refugees. Like, that's extreme enough. And so
cleanse my soul in the fires of a refugee camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried that.
Yeah. So, I was like, I don't know, nothing else is working. Like, we'll try this. And so what I did is I was like, if I go overseas, help refugees, I was building a medicinal cannabis company at the time as well. And so I was like, okay, I'll go overseas, I'll help a bunch of refugees, I'll come back. Cannabis company will be up and running by then. And then I don't have to work at the agency anymore. So like, I'm a genius. Like I figured it all out and like, I'll equilibrium myself somehow. And so
your choices, your bad choices are stacking up here, Victoria, from porn to cannabis. Yeah, let's keep going.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but we had like, obviously this is before everything, but we had a joke. We're like, wow, we're legal pimps and we're legal drug dealers. Like what world do we live in where this is a thing? But
well,
it's
that's
crazy.
A very good question, actually. Very legitimate question. What world do we live in?
Yeah, so it's wild that and these things, and I think that anyways, that's a conversation about language, because when you desensitize language, that's how these things are made okay, and then you can laugh about them, but the reality is they're destroying people. But so yeah, I was like, how do I help refugees? So I was like, well, I don't know. I think I went to this church when I was a kid and I stopped going when I was perhaps maybe 8 years old, and as I said, I was 25 at the time, and I was like, I think they had a refugee program. So I Googled the church and I sign up for this application for outreach, and maybe like a week later or so, I get a call from this like young adults pastor, and she calls me and she goes, "Hi, I heard you want to come down to the church. Would you like to come down this Thursday?" So I was like, okay. And I thought it was just like a vetting thing. I had no idea. I was like, maybe this is just what Christians do and they just like vet you for like outreach. I have no idea.
Clearly you didn't have God in your life at the time.
No, absolutely not. And so I remember rocking up to this church on a Thursday, and even this thought, like saying how I didn't have God, these are the thoughts I was believing. I was sitting in the car and I literally was like, I can't walk into that church. Like, I'm such a bad person. I think I'll burst into flames if I go in there.
Oh.
Like, I didn't know, but I was just like, I'm a horrible person. Like, I can't do this. And so I remember sitting in the car wrestling with myself. And I remember just hearing this voice, or just this, I don't know what else to call it, but it was like, there's someone in there and they're waiting for you. You just got to go in there.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. And so I walk into this church and I word vomit for hours to this beautiful young adults pastor. And I think everyone can get, I'm quite a bubbly person. So imagine this mess for like 3 hours, just going, I don't know, I kind of sell porn and everyone tells me that it's good, but it feels bad, like help. And she was so beautiful. Oh my gosh, Lara, like she literally, she didn't judge me. She didn't condemn me. She didn't do what I thought Christians would do. She goes, I would love to invite you to come to church this Sunday. There's a guest speaker who's speaking and I think you'll really resonate with them. So I was like, okay. So I rock up to church on the Sunday and the guest speaker in church is talking about OnlyFans and is talking about this over-sexualized culture. And this is a woman who has been in activism for like 40 years now. And she goes to all these schools around the country in Australia and she sees the destruction of our young people. And she said this line, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I do now. And she goes, Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of the earth, and they have failed, and we are destroying the next generation. And instantaneously, everything clicked in my heart. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. What we are doing is wrong. This is bad. And so I'm like in the balcony, like at the back. But I ran down to her after she finished speaking, and I went up to this woman and I said, hi, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And again, didn't do what I thought Christians would do. She goes, let's have lunch. And this beautiful woman sat with me for hours and just answered my questions. Isn't this like a safe injecting heroin room, ethical porn, positive girl power, all the things? And she just explained the truth to me. And that was on a Sunday. By the Friday, I quit the agency. I walked away from every single thing in my life. And honestly, basically every single day from that day, I've been talking about OnlyFans, the reality of it, what I saw there, and trying to educate and equip parents and young people in understanding what's going on. And that was, 2 years ago.
So when you say we're destroying the young generation, what do you mean specifically?
Yeah, I think that what it is, and now that I've basically been touring for the past 2 years, spreading this message. Every single time I speak with young people and parents, parents have no idea what is happening with their young people on their phones. They have no idea the world that they are in.
They don't.
And they just think that if I give them this phone, they're going to figure it out. And it's like, no. Like, I speak often, and I speak in faith and secular. This is a problem across the board. And every single time I speak, I like to speak to the young people about what influences are influencing them. And one of the biggest ones I speak about is Bop House. And Bop House is this girl named Sophie Rain, who's this Christian OnlyFans girl. I think the Bop House has almost 10 million followers. It's huge. And it's influencing this young generation to idolize being a sex worker, to want to dream dreams of going and storing up their content so they can go and apply for the Bop House and do OnlyFans when they're 18. Legitimate women with legitimate career options are dropping out of college. They're not wanting to pursue their jobs anymore. They're quitting their jobs because, well, I might as well just go do OnlyFans. And so when I speak,
because they all think they're going to get rich on OnlyFans,
right.
And the reality is what you said. Only 300 are making more than $1 million a year, and that's out of how many?
It's 3.8 million, if I'm correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's not good odds. Okay, but that kind of breaks my heart as a parent, but also, fills me with anger in a way, and then also guilt, because I have young teenage kids too, and they're definitely not on OnlyFans. But when you say parents don't know what their kids are doing on their phones, I mean, I got to admit that's true too. I mean, because your kids want their privacy, and phones have become such an sort of invasive part of their lives. It's your friends, it's your schoolwork, it's your this, it's your job, it's your everything. And intruding on that, everything does feel like a violation of their privacy. But then at the same time, they're being seduced by a really dark force that is completely deceptive, right? Because they're painting a picture that isn't even real.
Yeah, and I think that that's why I love to use the language of we need to shatter the illusion. When I speak with young people, what I love about it, especially young girls, is when you just give kids the hard reality. And I speak from like 13 to like 17-year-olds. So
Yeah.
majority of the time. And when you explain to them, this is what I think a lot of parents, or even just adults in general, forget with the younger generation, is we all grew up to some degree, even though I know I'm 27, but I still remember a time before like the internet, before Instagram at least, right?
Sure.
And so I grew up understanding to some degree that there was a life that exists outside of this stuff, and this stuff is fake to some degree. Our young people have no idea that what they see online isn't real. And so by explaining to them, hey, do you understand that OnlyFans girl that you're obsessed with? That there's probably an agency behind the scenes and they're forcing her to do a lot of this content. Well, do you understand that this is manipulating you? And sometimes it's not even the extremes of to go do porn, but the amount of little girls that I speak with, like I'm talking 12, 13-year-old girls that come to me in tears because they watch Bop House content and they think that they have to act that way. And then they've gone and sexually done something with a boy that they regret and asked me, how do I deal with the shame of that? Like, this is so
I
much
see.
bigger than just OnlyFans.
Wow.
This is about what are we teaching as a culture
Yeah.
to our young boys and our young girls.
Yeah, what's the standard that we're setting?
Exactly.
Okay, you got to explain the Bop House thing to me again. I'm old.
yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
I'm technologically dinosaur. So, okay, what exactly is Bop House?
So Bop House, okay, the definition is baddies on point. And so
Baddies on point.
yeah. And so it's kind of this cultural phenomenon that's come around of like you want to be referenced as like a bop girl. And so this girl named Sophie Rain, who's a Christian OnlyFans content creator, has come out with the Bop House. So she's gotten all of her OnlyFans friends to come together and live in a house in LA, and they create childlike content to be able to not only lure people to their OnlyFans, but to entice young girls to follow them, be interested in them, and to be able to basically desire to become an OnlyFans girl as well.
I see. It's your dream to grow up. It's kind of like the MTV house, right? This is the Bop House.
Yeah.
But like how young? Like when you say it's aimed at young girls, like young girls of what age?
I guess it depends. I wouldn't say that there's necessarily a target demographic.
There's always a target demographic,
like-
Victoria.
That's true. I'm so sorry.
You're in marketing. You know this.
I know. I'm so sorry. I take that back. Look, a story that I'll tell about that, which I think would be real. Hopefully this helps parents specifically to understand the impact of this. I have a friend in Redding, California, so Northern California, and her daughter, I believe, is like 14 years old. And so at the start of the year, the Bop House was open for registration. But to be able to register for the Bop House, you needed to have proof that you had a history of creating content. Now, there was at my friend's daughter's school, all of the young little girls heard about the Bop House registrations being open. Wow. So what do you think they did? They all started to post on their Instagram sexualized, like almost from my understanding, like pornographic images of themselves to their Instagram. And what they were doing is they were putting it under these like specific hashtags. So then everyone at the school would be able to search up the hashtag and find all of this content of these little girls, because they were wanting to be able to store it up. So when they turn 18, they would be able to apply for the Bop House.
Wow. And when you get to the Bop House, what do you do?
So like my understanding again is they're content houses. So we see this, like if you have a look throughout like social media history, I guess you could say, there's a fantastic documentary as well, again just another resource for parents, about a girl named Piper Raquel. It's on Netflix, and it talks about these content houses and what they do. And so the whole point is that you want to be able to maximize and leverage everyone's unique audiences. So you all come together in these houses and you all create content, and you're all kind of cross promoting with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, this framework has been done all throughout social media history. Now it's just that it's OnlyFans' turn to be able to do it.
Yeah, I remember watching something like that with gamers with my son years ago, right? There's all these different, like, really influential gamers who are now living in a house together. And then you basically have the soap opera, right? The drama within the house of the relationships and the fallouts and, and all of that, right?
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Wow. Okay, so what's the worst thing you did when you were at that agency? What's the thing that bothers you the most or that you're the most ashamed of? Like, how low did you go?
I wouldn't say necessarily there was anything that I would feel like extreme. And this might be a hard thing for people to comprehend if you're not of faith. I don't have shame, I have burdens. I think that that's the difference. What I am burdened by is the lack of empathy, of understanding people as humans. And truly, when you're so desensitized by this culture, you really do commodify people and people become products. And I just think that that's such a horrific way to look at a human.
Very
That's so
interesting.
individual and unique and beautiful and exceptional. And you literally have a lens of how can I make as much money as possible off this girl? Look at her niche. Oh, look at how young she looks. How can we leverage this? And I just think that that's so sad that that's how another human looked at another human. So I wouldn't say it's shame. It's more of a burden.
But you've asked God for forgiveness, obviously.
Oh, yes. Confession, is one of the most spectacular things because it puts a reverence in you. And you're like, I never want to do that ever again because confessing is such a
So have you forgiven yourself?
Pardon?
Have you forgiven yourself? Because
Yeah,
God's already forgiven you.
Yeah, I definitely think so. That's why I say it's more of a burden because now for me, it's also like a gratitude. I know that might sound really bizarre, but I'm like, wow, I got to see this extreme of it. But then through that, I've been able to understand how exceptional people are. And especially for women, I had a friend when I was working at the OnlyFans agency. And she hated doing OnlyFans. She didn't want to do it anymore. And she was like, it gives me anxiety, all the things. I was like, okay, babe, well, let's get you involved in the business end. Let's get you involved in the agency. And I sat down with her and I asked her, what are you good at? And she goes, I'm good at being hot. And I was like, nah, babe, come on. What are you good at? She goes, no, Vic, I'm not good at anything else. I can't do anything but this. And that was
all she's done her whole life is take pictures of herself.
Yeah.
And to copy other people's poses. And she's created, that's what these kids are being raised on.
Exactly. And that's what I think devastates me the most. And so that's why I feel gratitude in the sense that God has shown me the extremes. And then through this process, I think about that girl often. Every time I share this story, I think about her. And I'm like, she had the most exceptional family values I have ever seen in a person. That girl was so funny. You couldn't not be with her for 2 seconds and be in tears of laughter. Yet she doesn't see that about herself. All she sees is that I'm this OnlyFans girl and that's all I'll ever be. That's devastating.
That's devastating to society as a whole, not just the individual, right? Because you're raising sort of vacuous little puppets who don't feel good about themselves and who don't believe in themselves. So they're not even motivated to learn how to do something else.
Yeah, and we're raising a generation to think that. We're literally raising a young, I alluded to it before, but I was
Generations.
speaking. Truly, generations, absolutely, because it's my generation, it's the younger, and there's also women that are older than me that believe this too. Yeah, there was a school I was speaking at back in Australia and I was sharing my story and these two 15-year-olds came up to me after I finished speaking and they said, do I know this girl named Anna Paul? She was one of our biggest OnlyFans creators, very influential. And I said, no, I don't know her personally. I just seen her on TikTok. I'm assuming you watch her TikToks too. And they said, yeah. I said, okay, cool. What do you like about her? And they go, well, she seems happy and she can travel. I was like, okay, cool. So do you think to be happy and to travel, you have to do OnlyFans? And they're like, yeah, well, duh. And they couldn't understand that they could be happy and travel without doing OnlyFans. And I think that, again, to talk about what's devastating for the generations is that because of the way that social media is mass manipulated, because children aren't being educated on how to navigate this, parents don't even understand what's going on. We literally have young girls that believe the only way they can be happy and travel is to sign up to a porn platform. That's crazy.
So basically, when you talk about the pornography part of it, right? These videos these hypersexualized videos, it can be like what?
Well, so there's a difference between there's hypersexualized videos that are the innuendos on
Yeah.
things like TikTok and Instagram. So you're not posting obviously on TikTok and Instagram like porn. It's suggestive things, right? So I'll give you an example. Something that you would post on TikTok and Instagram is there was a trend that was going at the time, and it was like a big mirror, and you had these little compacts. And so all the compacts had the mirrors facing up. And so there was like a sexualized song playing in the background, and the phone would scan across all of the little compacts. And then the caption was, "Did you see it?" And so you can imagine that invokes something. So a guy's scrolling, he hears this song, sees the "Did you see it? Did I see it? Did I see what? What am I supposed to see?" And then he's watching it again and again and again. And then before you know it, he sees that there's a girl in lingerie in one of those mirrors reflecting back. That piques his curiosity. Then before you know it, he's on the TikTok, and then you're in the funneling system. So that's the type of provocative content that you would post. Again, it's these innuendos, it's suggestive on TikTok and Instagram.
Like these girls doing cooking videos with, being suggestive with food. Is that one of it?
Yep. So anything that's like that. So that's why it's a weird word to use, but it's like almost cutesy. It's like girly pop vibes. It's sometimes it can seem very innocent, but there's an undertone of it's sexual, and that's what pulls people in.
Right.
And yeah.
And then, so once they subscribe to you, now if they want to, we talked about custom content, but you also have stuff that you can post that's locked content.
Yep, the pay-per-view stuff, yeah.
And so is the pay-per-view stuff, is that sort of the real meat of the pornography?
It depends. So it can be. It also depends on the specific strategy that agencies are using. So sometimes the pay-per-view is like the starter. So pay-per-view, you can like schedule them. So sometimes you can bulk schedule mass pay-per-views to go out to people, and it's like the teaser. And then what you'd want to do is get that subscriber in a conversation, and more so the big money would be made in the custom requests. So that's traditionally, but then again, if you have someone who has hundreds of thousands of subscribers and you can pump out pay-per-views, that's where the big money is. So it honestly just depends on the account.
And when you went into the back end, when you were now managing these girls from the beginning all the way to the end, you obviously had access to all of their content. Is that right?
Yeah.
So they don't do the messaging, but they have to do the videos.
Yeah. So they still have to be able to actually film content to be able to upload to OnlyFans. Yeah.
Okay. And then when you blew everything up with your old agency, I assume that that hurt your relationships and friendships? That must have been tough.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, there's like no one really from those worlds that I have friendships with anymore. But I can understand why. Like, it makes sense. Imagine you have someone that is intertwined with you business-wise, intertwined with you friendship-wise.
Personally.
And a lot of the people didn't know that I had this Jesus encounter. I just left. And then all of a sudden I'm talking about why this is bad. And so it's like, wait a minute, hold on. Not that long ago, you're drinking, partying, doing drugs with us. You're at these events, all the things. And now you want to talk about this is bad. So I can totally understand if you don't have faith, why that seems so bizarre to people.
Yes. And so what role has your faith played in all of this?
Oh my gosh, it's been everything. Like, I wouldn't have the courage. Honestly, I never would be doing this if it wasn't for faith. Like, even I left OnlyFans world and I was like, okay, well, I need a normal job again. Like, I need to get back into the real world. And so I actually went and got another job working in creative marketing in another startup. And so I was doing that and I was like, okay, it was a career job. It was something that I could probably do for the rest of my life. And what ended up happening was I was just volunteering going into schools. And I literally started my TikTok on January 1st last year. And I was just like, chatting to people about Jesus. Like, anyone that wanted to hear me, I would just talk about it. And so I had no intent other than I just needed to get this out of me. And what ended up happening, how I started doing this, to answer your question about how faith plays a role, one day I posted a video of me talking at a school to young girls and it went viral and I freaked out. And so I actually went into a fast for 3 days and I was like, oh my gosh, God, like, I don't know how to handle this. Like, it's freaking me out. And God said to me in this fast, and I know this is kind of wild for maybe people that don't have faith, but he goes, I want you to quit your brand new job and I want you to empty your bank account and I want you to say yes to going to America. I had my first invitation, I guess, to go to America. A person had said, hey, if you're ever in the States, we'd love you on our podcast. That's how loose it was. Yeah. And God goes, I want you to go and say yes to doing that. And that ended up being my first tour last year in July. And God just supernaturally provided financially the miracles I can't even explain to you. And I've been touring ever since. People just keep inviting me and I just keep ending up back. So all that to say, my faith plays the biggest part in this, because I don't have the courage to come to the other side of the world, a single girl by myself, and travel to strange places and talk to people and all of that, and the courage to speak out on these things and do all this that I do. I don't have it, but God has been so kind to give me that courage and to put that burden in me, and was the one that pushed me to do it. Because if it wasn't for that, I'd still be working my creative marketing job, back home in Australia.
Well, what kind of childhood did you have? How did you grow up?
So I grew up interesting. So I have two immigrant parents. So my father was born in a little town 3 hours outside of Greece called Nafpakto, and then my mother was born in Manchester. And my beautiful parents come from very heavy backgrounds with abuse and alcohol abuse and stuff like that, and just a lot of childhood trauma. And then you add that on being immigrants growing up in a very racist Australia. If you talk to anyone who was probably ethnic growing up in my dad's time, they'll tell you how hard that was for them. And same with my sweet mother. And so growing up, I grew up in a home with two abused adults, you know what I mean? And so I guess emotionally
it was very damaged people.
Yep, and they're the best people ever. They really are, but it's consequences of, unfortunately, really hard lives. So just grew up in an emotionally restrictive household. So I grew up very quickly, very young. I have two older brothers. My oldest brother's 9 years older than me. So I was left to my own devices to say all of that. So I kind of raised myself, which meant I had unlimited freedom, which is obviously not a good thing.
Well, it can be. You just, I guess you have to take it so far to where some people never come back from that, but Truly. You have.
Yeah, that's true.
And what about the drugs and all of that? Did you stop doing that, or you still, party girl?
No. Oh my gosh, supernaturally healed. I actually got exposed to cocaine when I was 13 years old. So that had been drugs and alcohol that was a very big part of my story even before OnlyFans world. But I got, radically saved. And within 8 weeks, I was sober. I was baptized, and I've been sober for 2 years now, which is a huge accomplishment.
That's incredible. Is it hard?
To be honest with you, not to, again, over-spiritualize things. I've just been really blessed that I prayed those prayers to God that this is bigger than me. I can't handle this. I tried. I bended drugs, I think, 3 times since finding Jesus. And within those first 8 weeks.
What, you bended?
Oh, bended. Sorry, that might be an Australian word.
Well, it might just be a different generation term.
Yeah. I stayed awake for multiple days on drugs. Oh. Yeah. Wow. So that's how extreme my issues were.
Yeah.
And I did that about 3 times within the first 8 weeks of finding Jesus. And the last time I did that is when I was like, I can't control this, and this is bigger than me. And God, I need your help. And he did it. And the only way I can explain it is he just supernaturally healed me. I had no cravings. I was a smoker. I was a 30 cigarette a day smoker for about 10 years. Started smoking when I was 13. That was a really hard addiction. I was smoking and vaping, and all of it just supernaturally gone within the first 8 to 10 weeks of being saved.
And how common is all of this? Because what I find so frightening is that I know every older generation looks at the younger generation and they're pushing the envelope and things are changing and they think, oh, it wasn't like that in my day. But it feels like, we pushed the line and pushed the line and pushed the line. And now we're kind of at the end of the line because, girls are doing things at 12 years old that you didn't do, until you were 18 or 20 or 22 years ago. Where do you go from 12? I mean, you're going to 10, right? And so I just wonder, are we at the end of the line of this kind of what we have really sort of just viewed as society's progressing, right? And now we have technology, and so kids are, their childhoods are being obliterated, from when they're tiny. They're not even getting a childhood in some respects because of what they're exposed to online. My teenage kids know about things that I didn't have any idea about for 30 years, 40 years of my life. And it's like nothing to them.
Yeah, I think my answer isn't like a linear one because I believe it's both and. I believe that we're seeing the pendulum swing so far that especially here in America, we're seeing culturally people go, I want to reject this. But even within that, even just say in secular culture, you're seeing things change. So just say like even 5 years ago, drinking was really cool, right? But now we're even noticing that because there's like optimization culture and health culture, people are rejecting drinking alcohol. And that's becoming a mainstream narrative of run clubs on a Sunday morning and you don't want to be like drinking because do you know what it does to you? Like we have this uber health culture that we're seeing become mainstream.
That's true. We do. You'll have no danger of seeing me at a run club on a Sunday morning, though. I just want to be very clear about that.
Yep, you and me both.
The only thing I'll be running from is the running club. Yes, as fast as I can in the other direction. Running for my bed. In fact, I'll watch you at the running club and I'll just make the motion while I'm lying in my bed.
We'll cheer them on. We can be on the sidelines.
And then I'll film my feet and I'll post it on. No, I'm kidding. I won't do that. No, I'm not. I'm heartbroken really because it seems like OnlyFans has become so pervasive. And you don't see people pushing back against this. And in fact, what you do see, you touched on something there that has great resonance beyond this conversation, which is that there is a culture now that says this is better because it's safer. So it's better for girls, for example, to be sold on various sites than be on the streets, because on the streets they can be killed, they can be exposed to more violence, and so on and so on. But it's a different kind of violence. It can lead to a physical violence, but there's something very violent that's happening to your soul when you sell yourself over and over again, and that becomes then the only thing that you know how to do. And what's interesting to me about it is I come at this from a very different perspective, right? I've been a journalist for, more than 3 decades. And so, and when I hear you talk about this, I'm conscious of the fact that while we're in 5th generation warfare now, which is the war for your mind, where that is the whole battlefield, right, is the war for your mind. So propaganda has been a weapon throughout warfare, but now it is it's the whole battlefield. And we're moving into 6th generation warfare. And guess what that is?
Yeah, what is it?
The battle for your soul. And so in some respects, with places like OnlyFans being proliferated, my issue with these things as well is that you're only telling kids about what the potential good things that they can get out of this, right? So, a kid who's grown up in a broken home, didn't do well at school, whatever reason, right? Thinks I'm never going to hold down a real job, but on OnlyFans, I can make a lot of money, right? Because everyone who's, okay looking can stand in front of the mirror and angle the camera in a certain way and alter the effects on it and all the rest of it and make themselves look a certain way. So they think, well, I can do that. But, when you're old and decrepit and failing like me, you learn a couple things along the way. And one of them is that everything has a price. And in this case, the price is your soul.
Yep, absolutely. And actually, I couldn't put it more eloquently than how you said it. That's what the trade-off is, unfortunately. And that's why I say that this is a bigger conversation than people just jumping on OnlyFans and doing porn, right? It's about your identity and what are we, as a culture, inaugurating our children to believe their identity is. And what we're doing is we're ushering in this era of exactly that. Your only value and worth and the dreams you should dream is to how to sell your body. And then what does that tie with our men? Because then the identity of men is, well, this is how a woman should be, therefore that's what I should want, so I need to act according. And we know how destructive that is. And so that's why I'm so grateful that you said that, because I hope that a takeaway for people that listen to this is it is so much bigger than OnlyFans. It is about your mind. How do you see yourself? How do you view yourself? Because what are the plans and purposes over your life then? You know, and I think that that's such an important part, because then it comes into your soul. And the destruction of people's hopes and dreams is one of the most horrific things that you can have, because where do you come from there if you have no hope? And I think that that's what our OnlyFans culture is actually portraying in such a deep way, that don't have any other hopes and dreams than this. But then imagine you do jump on and you make $180 a month, you go, this is my only hope and dream. What's next? What do I do? Because what is my value? And that is so much deeper than what I think people think it is.
Yes, it's so interesting that you touched on hope, because hope is a big thing. And taking away people's hope, that's what leads to despair. And you know, I just did an event with a child, a pediatrician, and she was telling me that when she, you know, for many years in her practice, she never knew the name of a child psychiatrist, because she said maybe we would prescribe, you know, send a kid to go and see a psychiatrist maybe 3 times a year. She said now in her practice, they send kids to psychiatrists 3 times a day.
Oh,
that's the cost that we're talking about, right?
With that being said, and again, I hope, because I want to be hopeful, there is so much that is in parents' hands. And so some really actionable, tangible things for our little people that I hope...
yeah, this is good. What do you recommend?
Yeah. So the way that we need to be doing education with our children is a lot younger than what we believe it is. And there's 2 elements to this. So if you are exposing your child to any type of digital item, iPads, laptops, phones, whatever it is, even
Xbox.
the TV that's a smart TV, Xboxes, PCs, from like 4 years old, I would literally be reading this book with them that is literally called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. You want to start to open up with your young people of them understanding that there's going to be things that they see online that might make them feel a particular way. Now, you're not going to sit there with a 4-year-old and obviously say there's porn and there's bad things and whatever. No. But what you can say is in this book, sometimes there's things that you might see and it might not make you feel very good in your tummy. It might make you feel a little scared, or it might make you feel a way that you don't know how to explain. If you see anything, you are not in trouble, but come and talk to me. And maybe they have safe people. Like when we would go into schools, I did like sex education in schools for a little bit over the summer, and we would teach young kids, like 6-year-olds, who are your 5 safe people, and tell your 5 safe people if you see something that doesn't make you feel good. It was about a lot of prevention as well. So we don't keep secrets. And you tell people everything. And so who are your 5 safe people that you can tell things to? And if someone tells you to keep a secret, they're probably... Anyways, so all of that to say, the younger you start educating your children, the better. So if from like 4 or 5 years old, if they're being exposed to screens, explain to them good pictures, bad pictures. Again, that's literally a book parents can buy. Then we come up into a little bit older. Then it opens up the doors. So if your children see anything, they can come and talk to you, because the average age of pornography exposure in the US and Australia is literally 8 to 9 years old. And so there's a correlation, though, which I find really fascinating.
It's outrageous.
It is. But the interesting thing about this is that supposedly it's also the rate that children are going through puberty is earlier. So a lot of boys and girls are actually starting puberty now at 8, 9 years old. So what are they doing? How are they getting exposed to porn? Well, they're Googling what's happening to my body. That's a big one that we see in schools, is that a lot of children are Googling very innocent things, and that's how they're getting exposed to porn. So then again, an actionable for parents is, if you think that this is weird, it's not that weird to sit with your 6, 7-year-old and say, do you know that as you grow up, you don't just wake up one day and you're a big person, but there's a process that happens. And it's, if you're of faith, you can say, God made everything very good in you. And so we want to talk about everything that's in you. And so we're going to talk about the process of how you go from being a little person to an adult. Like, and then you talk about these things. You talk about periods. You talk about wet dreams. You talk about erections. Like, and you say, it's okay. It's normal. You don't need to Google these things. You can come talk to us and we will talk to you about them.
Very
and that
important. Getting your kids to come to you as a parent instead of always going online.
And that's a huge one that I think parents miss. They don't correlate, oh, wow, my child might be going through puberty and they're curious about their bodies. So they're Googling things. So I think that that's really helpful as well. Wow. So start young, 4 years old, good pictures, bad pictures. As they're growing up, they're around that 7, 8, 9-year-old mark. I know it might seem young, but you're having, again, that's why I like to role play these things so parents can understand how to put it into language. Have these conversations with your children. Look up, there's so many resources. There's so many books. There's so many Christian resources out there on how to navigate these conversations with your young people. And then if your children is a little bit older, so you may be sitting listening to this and you're like, well, I have teenagers. Like, what do I do with them?
Right.
I think that the beautiful thing with teenagers is make them the experts. So a majority of teenagers
they are. Didn't you know? Every teenager out there is an expert.
And so, but you know what? You're a teenager. If you come
that
to them,
won't take much convincing at all.
Exactly. And so imagine if, and this works, if you sat there with your young person, and even if you like wanted to make it as silly as, hey, I've just downloaded Instagram and I have no idea what to do. Could you help me? Let them be the experts in this. And yeah, I can help you with this, mom, and I can do that. And then, who do you like to follow on your Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, why do you like to follow them? What about them is interesting? And again, you're playing the long game. So you're opening up for these conversations. Oh, you follow Sophie Rain, for an example of the OnlyFans Bop House creator. What do you like about Sophie? Well, do you think that you have to live a life like Sophie to be able to have nice things? Or let's talk about that. And so again, you're being wise and you're not doomed. This is bad. And you're going to no, that doesn't work on anyone. But I think if parents can be more proactive and interactive with their children.
Just more engaged and involved in their children's lives.
Yep.
And having those, don't be afraid to have those conversations. And don't be afraid to learn from your kids, right? My kids teach me a lot.
Yeah.
So, but Victoria, have you put any of this into a book or a presentation or a masterclass? Because it's the kind of thing, parents ask me all the time, what do I do about this? And I'm a journalist, so I'm really good at exposing the problem and telling people the truth. And I'm really bad at telling them how to fix it because I feel like it's unethical for me to do that. It's up to you to make up your own mind. I can I can tell them, well, I met this very smart girl, Victoria. She actually knows what she's talking about, and this is what she recommends, and people can make up their own minds. But I just wonder, how can people find, get access to or get hold of you if they want you to come and speak at their school or, wherever it is? How do they find you?
Yeah. So the first part of that is do I have a masterclass or that's why I tour. So that's why I come here and I do speak so people can hire me to speak because I'm trying my best to, get this message out to as many people as possible. I've dedicated my life to this. Then how do you find me? Best way is through either my website, which is creatinggems.com, or through my Instagram, which has all the links to my websites, and that's just victoria.sinis, and you'll be able to find everything there to be able to communicate more and talk about bookings and everything.
And your company, Creating Gems, is really you help nonprofits, right, become more efficient and profitable.
Yeah. So the front end is all the activism,
but
I know.
Being successful, let's say.
Yeah. So the front end is all this activism, speaking, advocacy, educating people, which I love. But then on the back end, just as I've been on this journey, I noticed that there is so many beautiful organizations that have fantastic hearts, but they don't have business experience. And so that's why I try to take all my years of business experience and be able to give it to them to be able to forward their missions and make their missions stronger. So we're able to really see a new culture being built.
Well, that's amazing. And I hope that at some point your friends find their way back to you, and I'm sure that, it's never fun, right? People are very afraid of losing family and losing friends and being honest about who and what they are. But there's one thing that I noticed that you kept referring to is, for people of faith or for people who don't have faith. And I get the sense that Australia, where you live, you didn't seem to grow up with a lot of faith around you and in that kind of environment, right? Would you say Australia has become quite secular?
Yeah, we don't have like a faith culture like at all. Like it's not what it is here in America.
Wow. So so that was a big leap for you in lots of ways.
Yeah. People thought I was crazy. My own family thought I'd lost the plot.
Join the club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, America's really blessed that you guys have like faith is mainstream to some capacity. That doesn't exist back home in Australia. It's not mainstream at all. So yeah, it was very weird for people what I did.
Well, you're welcome here anytime. And I want to tell you to close this, I just want to share something with you and get your thoughts on it. One of the things, listening to you talk about what parents, and kids can do, it just reminded me of a conversation I had with my son who's 16, and, and he was talking to me. I was asking his advice for a friend of mine, and he said to me as I was walking out the room, Mom, no offense, but it sounds, like your parent, like your friend is not like that great a parent. And I was like, why would you say that? And he said they're trying to isolate their child from the internet and YouTube and Instagram and all these things. And I said, yes. And he said, well, you can't isolate. That doesn't work. You need to teach your child self-defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you do, right? You teach kids self-defense and parents.
I am going to steal that word. Yes, I call it critical thinking skills, and that is a way more fun way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, isolation, unfortunately, the internet is here to stay and technology is here to stay, and these apps and platforms and whatever, if you took down OnlyFans, there'd be something else that grew in its place. And I'm not making a case for not taking down OnlyFans. I'm just saying that in itself is not going to fix the problem. Each one of us has to be able to fight for ourselves and protect ourselves in this environment.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that when you have a change in a heart posture, that means OnlyFans still exists, and I've been able to reject it, and so I couldn't agree more. It's about educating, equipping. I love that self-defense. So we can reject these things now, and it's not just a whack-a-mole of one kind of goes and then the next one pops up. So yeah, I think that's a really beautiful way you said it. Yeah.
Because if we reject it, if we walk away, the market isn't there anymore. I know someone else is always going to be there. You can make that argument. But if the standards that we set for ourselves and our kids in society are not, to sleep with as many people as you can in one weekend and be rewarded for that, right? As if there's no cost. That if that's the standard, then, we're in deep trouble. But we can set higher standards for ourselves as individuals and as families and as communities, nations.
Yeah. We really can. I love that so much.
Well, thank you so much, Victoria. I loved meeting you, and please keep us posted on your journey, okay? I think you should put this in a book, and you should definitely create a masterclass, that can be on your website. And I have a feeling, that God has a lot more in store for you. So we'll be watching, and we're here.
No, thank you so much. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate it.
Okay, you take care. Thank you so much for watching Going Rogue with Lara Logan. You can like and share and subscribe, and you can go to laralogan.com, catch up on all our past episodes. You can also find them under the highlight button on my X account. We're on Instagram, Rumble. We're all over the place. No excuses for not watching and not being bold enough to go rogue with Lara Logan. Thanks for watching.